New to the STA series. It's nothing but it's great to have you. Every year, ITDP and the STA committee awards the Sustainable Transport Award to a city which showcases bold and progressive sustainable transport solutions. Earlier this year, we actually celebrated two runner-ups, the city of Bhubaneswar, India, and the state of Jalisco, Mexico. And we showcased the interventions and processes behind them that earned them the recognition. So today we're diving deeper into the strategies and processes that Paris will present to help us get closer to their first-hand experience, which includes also different decision-making practices and solutions that they elevated to address their challenges. You can also read more about the STA in the link that we are just sharing in the chat. So with that, it's also time to introduce the panel. We'll start with Aimé Gauthier, the Chief Knowledge Officer at ITDP. Aimé is very passionate about all things sustainable urban mobility and the equity intersectionality. She will also moderate the session. Then we'll pass it to the representatives from Paris and experts in urban mobility. Natalia Cicciarello is the Shared Mobility Manager for Paris, and she will illustrate the overarching strategies and motivations for Paris. Then we'll pass this to Charlotte, the head of the cycling mission at the Road and Travel Department for the city of Paris, who talk about the cycling interventions and benefits that the city gained from cycling network expansion. So with this lengthy introduction, I think I'll just pass this on to Aimé, who will open the session.
Great, thanks so much, Ivona, and thanks everyone for showing up. We really appreciate you coming to this session. Paris has been the STA winner before in 2008, and that was mainly for Vélib, and now they're back. They're back again with more interventions that I think are great. And I just wanted to open by saying a couple of things that have really kind of struck me as I've learned more about what Paris has been doing. And I think one of the key things that I'm hearing through what they're telling us is change is possible. You can have this kind of radical transformation of your city, but it does take time, and but you can scale in that time. So really thinking about where they started in 2001 and 2004, leading up to 2007 and 2008 when they introduced Vélib, and to now, it's a generation. And if we're thinking about change, we need to be thinking about change over time and scaling in that time, but it still takes time. I really love how Paris is holding both the present and the future together as they are thinking about these changes. So they're looking at, okay, we need to address climate change. They're looking at both mitigation, which is reducing car use and reducing fossil fuel use, and adaptation. How do they address heat waves and flooding and extreme weather events that are happening? They're holding these things together. They're holding the idea of a present that's better for children and also a future for the city that is better for children. They're looking at safety and security. They're thinking about health for today and air quality and how they bring greenery back into the city, and also how they're thinking about health for tomorrow, again, with things like heat waves. They really are looking at a greener and gentler city, and I think that's a powerful message, especially in these times. To have gentleness, there's something about that just really resonates with me, and I think that's amazing. So perhaps a slower city, perhaps a city where we all relate better to each other and to our natural world. And they've been breaking the juggernaut of car culture and economic attractiveness as the key features for planning, and I think that's also really amazing. They're thinking about the neighborhood, and now, 15 years after they won the award for Vélib, they're now talking about 100% cycling city. So it's really amazing. So I'm going to pass it over to Natalia. I'm very grateful that Natalia and Charlotte are here. They have a really great story to tell. So Natalia, please take it away. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Aimé, for the presentation, and I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you for this honor. And so as do you see my screen? That's fine. Okay, great. So we will be presenting with Charlotte some of our latest projects and some of the latest targets that we fixed in the city according to transformation of the public space and the sharing the road. So to start, it was important for us to specify when we are talking about Paris, what is Paris exactly, and what is Paris area? Because, you know, as when we compare cities, sometimes it's difficult to compare if we don't know exactly, well, how it's situated. And in fact, if we look at Paris, Paris is a very, finally, small city if we compare it to American cities or South American cities. I mean, there's only 105 square kilometers, and it's a very high dense area with more than 2 million inhabitants. So that means is that we have 20,000 inhabitants per square kilometer. So it's very dense. There's if we compare, well, to cities like London or Berlin, here you can see, for example, what it would be like in population and according to the dance. Besides, Paris has, gathers many functions because we have the political and administrative capital. We have a major financial and commercial center. And besides, we have a cultural and touristic attractiveness that makes that, people come from everywhere, we not only have Parisians, but we have greater Parisians. And besides, we have tourists coming every year. So here, for example, you can see the gray area is the region of Paris. Then you have like the inner region, which is what we close the Petite Couronne, which is like the small region, and the violet center. So this is Paris of the which is the center of this agglomeration that would make 13,000 inhabitants. So we have in all this there are 43 million daily trips. And 13 million concern Paris. This means it's a lot, and finally it's a little tiny center of this huge region. Besides, we have 36 million of tourists visiting Paris every year, and we have, all the logistic operations. And if we look exactly inside Paris, regarding to the trips that are done in Paris, 60% of them, they're made by walking. Then we have 25% of trips that are made by public transportation, 10%, like bike, e-scooter, moped, and other modes, and only 5% of trips are done by car. So if we compare to other cities, especially from three Americas, American continent or Asia or other continents, it's very different. So if we regard to the distribution of the trips according to origin zone and destination zone, so we see that this is a comparison between 2010 and 2020. I guess in the last 3 years, many things changed since the pandemic. But, these are some studies, general studies that are done every 10 years. So, I mean, they don't change that much. So it's quite accurate. So almost 70% of the trips are start in Paris and finish in Paris. Then we have 24% that start or end in Paris and are related to the small one here, the grayer line, and we have 9% which of trips are related from Paris to the greater zone. So this is how this the composition. And if we look at governance, we have many actors working together in the same area, because in fact, regarding mobility, the organization authority, in fact, is at the regional level. So the organization for mobility is all this area, which is Île-de-France Mobilité. And then the city of Paris, what you see here in the middle, with this area, it's what we are representing today. So we are in charge of traffic and parking regulation and of roadway and public space maintenance. Besides, there are some competence that is shared with the Préfecture de Police, which is at the national government, because in Paris, as you know, as I said before, we have some administration, and so we have some roads that need special security, like for ministries, embassies, and for the president. So there are some competence that are shared with the Préfecture de Police. And then we have the Métropole du Grand Paris, which is like this area, and this institution is in charge of air quality. So low emissions zone is something that is in charge of the Métropole of Grand Paris. So as you see, we have many different actors working together with some subjects that are common to all of us. And for example, for the organization of public transportation, so it's the Île-de-France Mobilité, but local cities, they contribute to, and they finance the public transportation. And for example, local authorities and then employers, every company has to subsidize and cover 50% of the cost of transport for their staff. So it's something that is mandatory. And besides, the public transportation gets the money to finance their service by selling tickets. So, for example, Paris contributes every year with 390 million euros for this budget of 10,005 billion each year that it's needed for the public transportation. So we have then a very high public transport system, as you see here in the map. It's a very dense offer, especially in the center of the area of Paris, as you saw at the beginning. And it means we have 1,500 buses, not buses, but bus lines, and 14 metro lines and 9 tram lines that specially go, for example, in the outer here around the boundary of Paris, and then we have some regional trains that would go from the center to Paris to the outside. So it's really in the historical centripetal context that the city grew. And this is why we have also the special features, and there were, like, we can see more than 1,000 kilometers of bike lanes in 2020. And we have also car sharing offers, station-based and free-floating model. And what is important is that Parisians only 33% of Parisian households, they own a car, which is quite little if we compare to other cities. And only 11% of economically active Parisians commute by car, which is also very little, because normally Parisians would use public transportation, would use other means to commute. So it's an ideal environment for also shared micromobility, which is one of my subjects. And for example, since 2007, Paris has their Velib system, which is a bike sharing docked bike sharing system, which became today it's Valip Métropole because it has been extended outside Paris, and there are like 60 cities that take part in this bike sharing system, which is very affordable. It's really like a public service. And there are like 20,000 bikes, and from which 40% are e-bikes, providing these facilities to use bike for everyday trip. I mean, it's mostly used to commute. And we have a very extended network with 1,000 stations in Paris. So every 300 meters, you have a bike station. And then we have shared micromobility offers provided by private operators. And we have no more e-scooters since the 1st of September. And but then we have some e-bikes and moped, shared moped as well. So what we can see of Paris, I mean, climate and sustainability mobility is a subject that has been concerning Paris since 2001. And so since then, the city has been promoting and encouraging active shared mobility, and in order to reduce action on climate change. Since 2004, Paris adopted an ambitious action against climate change by establishing some assessment of how the territory was working and the consumption of the territory, and did an assessment on greenhouse gas emissions. So in 2007, then Paris adopted their first climate action plan, with specific objectives of reducing greenhouse gas emission in the long term. And then in 2015, there was a Paris Agreement that reinforced all these ambitions. And today, the city is working on a new plan that will be voted, I guess, in the beginning of 2024. So with more ambitious. And the city set a reduction target of 75% of greenhouse gas emissions between 2004 and 2050. And as you can see here, so the objective is to make Paris a resilient, inclusive, carbon neutral, and 100% renewable energy city by 2050. So here in the presentation, you can see the objective for 2030 that were previously fixed, and then the objective by 2050 that are more ambitious, because the idea is to get the carbon neutrality and to have less 50% energy consumption throughout the territory, to reduce up to 80% the carbon footprint, and and to be 100% using renewable energies, including 20% of locally produced energies. So they're very impressive objectives, and we have to work in that way. So these are the main objective and information regarding the context of Paris. So now I will let Charlotte talk about the bicycle and cycling plan, and then I'll get back to the presentation with some other information.
Thank you, Natalia. Okay, so hi everyone. I will talk about what we do for the cyclists and the future cyclists in Paris. So next slide, please. Yes. What do we aim in Paris? We aim to have this image in almost every street in Paris by the end of the term, so in 2026. The goal is to make Paris 100% cycle friendly. The goal is not to have 100% of Parisians to cycle every day. So the goal is we really I mean, the public transportation is still and will still be the main way to move around Paris. But what's happening on the surface, we want it to be as more as possible made by cyclists and not by cars. So what we aim is that in every street, everyone can choose to cycle from point A to point B because the street would be safe enough for people to choose to cycle if they want. If they don't want to cycle, they don't have to. We spent for that 250 million euros. So it's a lot of money that we put on cycling. It's still less than what we put on public transportation, but it's still a lot of money. It means that also a lot of the teams in the DOT are dedicated to make this change happen and this money spent. And it also means that the political will needs to be really strong to effectively make the change that is intended by all this plan. So the biggest shift that the bike plan is aiming is on the infrastructure, so on the street of Paris. So it's a more visible part of the bike plan. It's not the only part of the bike plan. We also have things more concerning services for cyclists or schools for kids where they would learn how to ride a bike. So it's a lot of, I will not go into detail in the plane, but the main thing is make the city cycle friendly and also have a lot of incentive so people could change to cycle. Yes, thank you, Natalia. One example like this to show you also why we do that. On the image on the left, you can see it's a cyclist with the painted cycle lanes, and on the right you have a protected cycle lane. And on the right, you have a woman cycling, and this woman, she has a chair for kids at the back of her bikes. So we assume that she, as a kid, that she maybe have deposit to school before going to work. And this is exactly what we aim. We aim to have more diversity in the cyclists that we have in Paris. In the beginning, like 10 years ago, we had a lot of we had a lot of men, and between 2015 and 2020, the share of women shift to 30% to 40% of cyclists. So it's still not 50, but it's a lot better than before. And it's mainly due with the fact that the lane that we are making today are more protected, and we feel more safe on it. So you can go with your kids on the cycle lane. Next slide, Natalia. We got a big help with COVID because we made a lot of purple cycle lanes. So it's the picture on the left. You can see the concrete blocks and the yellow plastic thing protecting the cycle lane. We made a lot of that, and it was a huge success. And what we did after, it's on the right, we did just change it to a permanent and regular cycle lanes, the same that you can see in every street, not in every street yet, but in a lot of streets of Paris. And what you can see in this picture, it's like, it's a cycle lane, and there is still cars. The project is not to ban cars for city, is to reduce the space of cars to make place for everyone. So you can, that way you can choose. If you want to use your car, you can. If you want to cycle, you can. If you want to take the buses, you can. If you want to take the subway, you can also. The project is to make a place for everyone. Pop-up plane, it was amazing. So on the picture, you can see it was the way for us to test new things. So we tested a Dutch intersection at this place. So from a technical point of view, it was really interesting to be able to move things so quickly. And also it was a huge success because we built a lot of kilometers, but also we had a lot of new cyclists in the course of 6 months. In some lanes, we had one. If you take 2 cyclists on the cycle lane, one of the cyclists was a new one. So it was amazing of how fast people changed the way they moved and decided, okay, I'm gonna cycle. So every day now I'm gonna drop my kids to school with my bike. It's a big change, but it happened really fast. And how can you, next slide, convince people to move so fast? Is just not about having a perfectly designed cycle lane. You also need, of course, it's better with protected cycle lanes, but you also need that the lanes are connected, because only one perfected cycle lane in one street, it will not be a use, because probably no one is going from point A to point B only in this street. So you need to have a complete network, or for sure you have to start somewhere, but the idea is to go rapidly to a complete network. What you can see on the slide, it's on the left side, it's a network that is intended for the entire Paris region, not just the city of Paris, but for the region. Of course, no one will ride a bike from the east part of the region to the west part, because it's like maybe, I don't know, 40 kilometers. But we have people like coming from one place to another to go to work every day, and that way they would be able to do it. In the right part, you have the plan that we have for Paris. Still a lot of work to do to cover the entire major network that we aim to have by 2026. But the idea is that cycle lanes, they need to be connected, otherwise they're not working pretty well. It's exactly the same as public transportation. Next slide. When just some picture to explain one thing. When you like make space for cyclists in a street, you change the way people move for every kind of people. It's not just for cyclists. So you have to take into account other people, like mainly cars for sure, but mainly pedestrian and buses. And the way you design and make your cycle lanes, you really need to focus on how the cyclist and the pedestrian will like get along. Because if you don't, and if your cycle lane is successful, that means you have a lot of cyclists. If you have pedestrian and it's not really well made between them, they could be in conflict, and they will get into conflict between each other and not against cars, for example, or motorbike, because everyone is used to the noise of motorbikes. So no one is, everyone has forgotten that it's not okay to have that much noise from motorbikes. And this is not really happening really smoothly in Paris, the increase of cyclists and mopeds for pedestrian, and mainly from people more elderly or more disabled. They are really concerned about the fact that cyclists, because cyclists, you are fast when you're coming from the pedestrian point of view. So it's a focus that we try to have this neat design where everyone has this place and everyone understand where it should be. On the right picture, you have a floating bus stop, so you can completely go out of the bus even if you're in a wheelchair, not being disturbed by cyclists, and then you have a perfect pedestrian crosswalk to go to the sidewalk, and it's completely understandable by everyone. So it's a main focus. Thank you. Another thing, and this it's not the same as public transportation, but it's the same as what we did for cars for years. For cars, you can ride your cars with the big highways and everything, and also you have a place where you can park your car, and it's the same for bike. We need people to be able to actually park their bike where they live or where they work and everywhere they want to go. So it's also a big, it's not as big as an issue as it is Another Day to the Netherlands, but we're still trying to assess it and improve the number and the quality of the bike parking that we offer. And that's why also the Vélib is a really cool system, because you don't need to park your bike. And it's really cool in Paris because people have really small flats and then they don't have bike parking usually. And the next slide is like one of the subject of the bike plan is also to increase the use of bikes by professional. Of course, you cannot make all your deliveries in Paris by bikes, but some of them are really pertinent by bike because you have less like kilograms of stuff that you can carry, but you are really faster to move around Paris, so you make more trips. So it's really cool things, and we have a lot in quiz of the people making deliveries by bike. And the picture on the right, it's a plumber, a Parisian plumber, and they go to their clients with a bike. And actually, they're also really efficient because it's really rare that you have to change a big stuff when you need the trucks to go to the clients. But that way, they are really more quickly, and more importantly, they go on time to see their clients. So yeah, you have all amazing kind of things that you can make with your bikes when you are working, and try to improve that. And Natalia is back for you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Charlotte. So I will just mention some of the specific objective in this, what we can say that is like the turn of the century, because for a century everything has been done in order to improve conditions for cars and to make it easier for cars to use the cities. And so how the city now is working back in order to regain public space and to share it in some other ways. So one of the main objectives is to reduce motorized modes to improve, well, quality of life, air quality, less noise, and make the city greener. So for example, we have what is called Paris Respire, which is like a special day every week, every Sunday, where streets, in every neighborhood, there are some streets that are closed, and so only pedestrians or for cycling is available as well. But there are some zones where cars are forbidden, and every first Sunday every month, these areas are extended. So much more area is reserved for this kind of Paris Respire. So cars are not let to enter some areas which are larger. Then the city is working on a limited traffic zone, because there are many trips that would just go from one point to another and just would go across the center. And so it means that there's a lot of noise and congestion. So today the city is working on this specific, this is the central area of Paris. Here's the river, so it's like the arrondissement, the center, and then there's part of the 5th or on the 6th. So the perimeter, the exact surface is still to be validated, but it's definitely will be some area where limited traffic zone will be installed. It's been 1 year now that Paris speed has been capped to 30 kilometers per hour in all the city. There are some main roads that still are allowed at 50 kilometers, but most of the city is up to 30. This is the signal for zone de rencontre, which are streets that are limited up to 20 kilometers per hour and where pedestrians are privilege. So, I mean, if there's a car and a pedestrian has, in theory, it has the priority. And well, this is something that Charlotte talked about. I mean, we are regaining space in the road to better distribute it between different users. So either you can use the car, but then you can cycle, and so the distribution is done differently. And there's an objective for 2030 is to transform the ring road that goes all around Paris and to make it greener and well, to reduce traffic as well. Then there's a main objective of our city mayor who has been elected. Is she promised to remove 50% of the available car parking spaces. Today we have 144,000 parking spaces for cars, so the idea is to reduce it to half of them. There were like a special consultation done in Paris with citizens, users, different stakeholders, and well, of course, shops and professionals to say what they would wanted to have instead of a parking space downstairs. So according to these results, the idea is to remove cars from the street and to do something else, either greener areas or sustainable mobility or playing yards. Well, so we see that if, you know, in Paris we have a park which is called But Chemin, and if we the number of parking places that we have in the city, they represent 6 times this green area, which is a very big area in Paris, because Paris, according to, I mean, if we compare it to London or Rome or Vienna, we have very few green areas. So it is very important to make it greener. The city has been...
I just wanted to give you 5 minutes.
Okay, great, thank you. So the city has been working on the concept of 15-minute city, but that you might certainly heard in another conference, so I will pass to it quickly. But the idea is to have everything in the 15 minutes on a walking or cycling distance. And to do that, there is an approach which is at the scale of the neighborhood. So the city has been divided in well, in different neighborhoods, and some planning and some new landscape is being rethought in order to, in a program which is called Beautify Your Neighborhood. And the idea is to, well, to reduce 50% of the cars, and to do like widen walkways or develop accessibility. And there were some consultation as well that have been done in these neighbors. So the idea is to, as Paris is a very, well, has not very green, a lot of green areas, is to adapt Paris for climate change. And in order to do that, we have to make it greener. So the idea is to plant more trees. So there's an objective of planting 170,000 trees by 2026. These are like the areas, and so there's an objective, of course, of doing also to I don't remember right now the term, but in order to make it greener on the soil, because soils have been they're not permeable to water, and in order to regain the rain water, to have more green areas. And besides this, the city is working on school streets in order to make schools safer and make children a safe place to get every day. So in this objective of reducing car parking. There's the city has been already doing many street schools. Well, the objective if on every school to have this kind of school which is closed from both sides, like you see here with the barriers, and to make it comfortable for children, and also to use public space in another way in order to have it, well, funnier ways to use it. And finally, as this new distribution of the public space can make also some confusion because new users, the city has been working on a street code that has been adopted in July this year. And we're established that the priority is to make a safer place for pedestrian and of course, taking in consideration elderly people and people with disabilities. So there's a new street code on which the city is working. So in order to make the public space a place safer to live in and more friendly and more, well, greener as well. So that's it. And thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. That was a really amazing presentation, and we've gotten so many questions. I think this might be the most questions we've ever received at a webinar, and so we were coming through them, and I think like the big question that keeps rising is about political will, about how do you handle backlash against the changes that you're making, how do you bring people along with the changes, both from the cycling perspective, the school streets perspective. How do you get the naysayers and the car users, or how do you address their concerns? How do you overcome resistance? We know that the mayor has been a champion for these things. What's her role in this? And does she provide political cover, or do you still feel like you have to be prepared for the backlash? So just, if you guys could talk a little bit about you did a little bit already, Charlotte, in the Q&A, but if you could also talk it out here about how you've addressed change management from the city perspective, that would be awesome.
Okay, I start. Maybe Natalia, you can go after. The main thing to have in mind is that the bike plan and the reducing of cars are major points of the program the mayor got elected with. So it's not a surprise. She said when she was running that she would do it. So the main response is that people actually voted for her. So she got elected, and that is what the majority of person would want. And this is the base of everything that we are making, is that they are elected official, they have a program, they run for it, and people voted for it. But that said, every project that we do in a public space is subject to controversy, people saying they don't want it, whatever the project is. It's mainly the case for cycling because it's really, I don't know, it's really polemic. I don't know if it's an English word, but people are really for it or really against it. It's really difficult to have actually rational discussion. I've seen someone saying in the chat that we reduce the number of bus lanes, making bike lanes. It's not true. It's not even verified by figures, but whatever, it's what people say. Controversial, thank you. So that means that if you want a project, you will have people saying that they don't want it. But you also will have people saying that they want it. You cannot make everyone happy with a project. It's not possible. Some people will be against, some people would be for it. So just at some point, decide what you want for the future of the city. And yeah, if everyone is against a project, usually we don't go for it. But it's really rare that it's a case that everyone is against a project. It's always a mixed and a battle between people that want it and people who do not want it. And we have also, no, That's so you should prepare like yeah, the political will is like the major thing. It's not DOT that making stuff. We are making what we are told to do. So if the mayor does not want things don't happen. Political will is the key. It's the mayor, but it's not only the mayor, it's also the deputy mayor. He makes all the public presentation of projects, discussion with all people that want to ask questions or so yeah, it's a lot of work from the political parts to address the problem, make decision on okay, I will go for it because I think it's better in the long term, and then the DOT we do what they decided.
I think one of the things that you mentioned in the actual Q&A is that you choose places where there's more consensus. Like you're gonna not start with the most controversial place to put a bike lane in. So can you talk a little bit about how you do that? That kind of
we will not do all projects that are controversial. So because we have several projects going on at the same time, because we have a lot of kilometers to do, and when we choose the project at one day, okay, which project we're gonna start? We start some difficult one, and we start also some easy one. That way, you have time to have the battle for the difficult one, but you also have easy win when you actually deliver the easy project. And the easiest project can be also like the things that you can show to people against the other projects and showing them, okay, look, this is what it will look like. Like for school streets, for example, a lot of people were really anxious. But when they have seen what it looked like, it's really beautiful. You have kids playing on the streets. It's amazing. And you say, okay, if we do that on your street, okay, you will not be able to park by your door. You have to walk for 50 meters. It's not that much, but you have to walk, right? But your kids would be able to play in the street. So, and it's not, you can show you, it's not, we are not saying it. You can go there and see for yourself.
John Orcutt is in the audience, and he was, I don't remember his title, deputy commissioner, I don't know, but for DOT in New York City. And one of the things that he said is that you do try to have these wins that you can show that you don't build a bike lane where there's no one's going to use it. You build a bike lane where people are going to use it, so then you can show success to people. And I think that's something that mirrors what you said, Charlotte, when we were talking earlier, where it's not just the promise, but you also need to show the results. And I think that gets to the also showing the kids playing in the street. Like there's power in having those examples, those positive examples to talk about. Cool. Anything else that you want to add about the building up the cycle lane? There's a couple of questions on like, how will you measure success? Like, how will we know when you've reached 100% cyclable city? And then a couple of questions around intersection design when you're thinking about building out the network. I think the network is really important, but the intersection is the place of kind of friction. So how do you address the intersection design, those types of things? And Natalia, I did want to also throw one to you about e-scooters. There's a couple of questions about like what happened with e-scooters. Can you also address that too?
Yes, well, as you know, Paris was the place to be for e-scooters since till the end of August. But well, I would say that being here in 2018, where first e-scooters arrived, it was like something I think no one would imagine what e-scooter became 3 years after, 4 years after, because it was really a success. But maybe because there was not a clear regulation at the beginning, it was difficult because maybe they installed in some context, they were used like for fun, with no rules, for really leisure purpose, and well, they created a lot of fans, but many people against them as well. What we see in Paris for e-scooter and what we can see, like according to the studies that we have done, In Paris, e-scooter would replace mostly trips done by public transportation or by walking, or, well, mostly public transportation and walking. So they were not really, and this is only for shared e-scooter, because it's not the same use for a personal e-scooter for someone who would be living in the outer part of the city, I mean in the outskirts, that would come with an e-scooter for the last mile, take the train and come to the dance area and then continue in the dance area. So uses are very different between shared e-scooter and personal e-scooter, at least in Paris, what we observed. So as the trips would mostly replace trips that could be done by public transportation, by active mobility, I mean, in a street, in a city which is very dense, which is looking forward to reduce climate change, climate change, and to reduce the emissions and all kind of energy use. In fact, electric scooters were not really in the main target of the mobility objective, maybe, of the city, because in the city that promotes active mobility and public transportation, why should the city continue to leave so much place for this kind of mobility? Because the city, in fact, built like 2,500 parking spots that would host up to 15,000 e-scooters. So it was the parking network of e-scooters was always taken like an example by operators to say, wow, in Paris in 1 year did something amazing for parking. And if you organize parking, then of course you can use e-scooters in an easier way. But the thing is, well, it was, well, the e-scooter area period, I mean, it finished, and today we see that users would have adopted bikes, but we will definitely use further studies, because we see like a number of shared bikes that has been increasing in September. So it's very interesting to see in the next month what happens with users of the e-scooter. And the objective of the city was to transfer this modal part to active mobility or public transportation.
Great, thank you.
Maybe I can answer for the question for bikes. We monitor the number of bikes on some lanes. It's really important because cyclists, they're so small. So you see 3 cyclists or 3 cars, and you're like convinced that there is more people on the car lane because cars are so big. So actually counting the cyclists is really important. We have streets in Paris where we have more cyclists than cars, but even with the figure, it's really difficult to convince people that it's true. Some are convinced that we traffic them, or I don't know. And we also need them because we have a lot of people against cycle lane that say that there is no one. Even on Rue de Rivoli, some political opponents say that there is no cyclist. So I don't know, how is it possible to even say and white something when you're supposed to be an elected official, but it happens. So actually, yeah, monitoring the thing is really important, but for sure it's better when you have cyclists on the cycle lanes. But you also have to be optimist, because it's like a public network. If you're starting the thing at the beginning, you will not have a lot of cyclists. For cars, we spend, I don't know, 70 years building the car infrastructure that we have. We spend millions and billions for cars. For public transportation in Paris, it's 100 years of development. When you have a subway line with 3 stops, you don't have a lot of people, or not as much people, that when you have subway lines of, I don't know, 5 kilometers with 10 stops and 2 other subway lines that you can cross and change. So it's also related to the size of the network that you can offer to people. And I don't remember what the other question were, except for monitoring. Yeah, intersection. It's a real technical question. So intersection are the key for sure, because if you have two networks, two bike lanes, but you have like an ocean to cross to go from one to another, it will not work for a lot of people. It means that your technical people at DOT should be able to design a really cool protected intersection, and that's not easy. And I've been doing that for 6 years, and I can tell you that's not easy. It's not something that you can invent. You need people that know how to say that, and a lot of people think they know, but actually they don't. So it's kind of the tricky thing. The main thing I could say, it's go Dutch. They know how to do it. I don't know if it's a translation, but in French we say don't reinvent the hot water. Like someone already find the solution, so don't spend your time. And we don't have time because we want a fast network, so we don't have time to like overthinking things. So this is the key for us, and not just for us, but for a lot of people. But yeah, learn from the best and just try to, you cannot copy paste because every street is different, every city is different, every country is different, but understand the major things. Why is it working in their place, and importing what we can in your cities. Intersection, it's yeah.
Excellent. We're going to do one last question, and then we're going to do closing remarks. So the last question is, so the Summer Olympics are coming, but I think it's also a question of the future. So like, what's in the future for you all? What are the things you're excited about? And is there a way to leverage the Olympics to further your transportation goals? Like, how are you thinking about the intersection between the Summer Olympics, your targets and goals that you've set, and then how you can continue to scale the excellent work that you've been doing?
Okay, I jump. Summer Olympics, it's the way it's seen in Paris. It's like it's a way to accelerate what we are doing to change the city to be adaptable or okay when it's going to be 40 or 50 degrees during summer. So we try to accelerate what we do for cyclists, but what we do for trees, greening, or school streets, or things like this. For cycling, we have this goal to have like cycling friendly Olympic Games. It's a major goal. We hope and we hope that we will be able to meet the goal. The goal is that if you are a tourist going to see a game, you would be able to do it by bike. So you will have a cycle lanes to go to the park or to the, I don't know, stadium. And at the stadium, you will find a bike parking or space to put your shared bike system if you have a shared bike. And then you can watch the game and then come back from your stadium to your hotel in Paris or thing like this. It's not just Paris, because actually the Summer Olympic Games is just only in Paris. It's an entire region of Paris. So all other cities also are working on this kind of big project. But it's the same. The vast majority of people are going to use the public transportation to go to see the games.
Great. So unless you want to add anything, Natalia, maybe I can ask you guys to give some last remarks about the work that you've been doing and what you think we should be taking from your experience, or the last thing you want to say, or the key takeaway that you would like to give. And so Natalia, I'll start with you if you're ready.
Okay. So I guess, well, I would say that each city and each region, I mean, has its own particular way of living, behaving. And so I think there's no like a miracle recipe for each city.
Oh, no.
Sorry?
Oh no, there's not a miracle recipe.
No, but I mean, you have to customize it. But I
Yes.
think as soon as we're all looking forward to to reduce, well, the impact on environment, and as soon as we look forward to integrate mobility for everyone, and to keep cities functional, I think it's a good way to look forward. And of course, well, personally for me, environmental subject is a priority one. So every decision has to be taken according to this point, and not only what's in the city, but the whole life cycle, life of everything. Like, for example, if we, well, on my personal subjects with our shared mobility, for example, is it better to promote station based with electric, with a docked bike sharing system, or is better for environment to have a dockless system, and in how long of time it's better to have each system? I mean, every decision for me has to be taken according to environment and according to giving the freedom for everyone to move in a less impacting way, and in an inclusive way as well.
Awesome. Charlotte?
I would say the main thing is that if you want to transform your cities, you will not please everyone. And not everyone will agree on what you're doing. Even people that maybe you feel are on the same side will not completely agree, because they would say maybe the priority is not that, but it's that you should focus on trees and not on cycling or whatever. So do not even try to convince everyone. It's not possible. It's not even desirable, because people are okay. It's okay that people are not okay with what you're doing. So yeah, the main thing is that you will have people against what you want to do in your city, and that doesn't mean that you should not do it.
I think that's an excellent point, because I think a lot of times cities face a lot of pushback and it gets hard. And I mean, just acknowledging that it will be hard and that you have to have strength in what you want to do and belief in what you do is really important. And I just think also with Natalia, your comment that it's about the fact that Paris has been such a great model for really thinking about how do we address the climate change crisis that we're in right now. Like, you all have done some amazing transformations. You've really been thinking about climate change for a while, but it's not just the environment. It's the idea that it's mobility for everyone and for the whole life. It's not just the commute trip or the economic trip. It's about how do we actually connect people to the things that are important, whether it be schools or in their neighborhoods. So amazing. To both of you guys, thank you so much for these wonderful words of inspiration and insight. So we really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's been in the chat. This has been amazing to see so much engagement, and we really thank you all. Ivana, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you so much. Well, bravo, everyone. This was wonderful. My job is to basically close this session, unfortunately, because I think we have to let Charlotte and Natalia go back and attend to all the duties they have for the city. Again, thank you both for your time, Charlotte and Natalia, and May, of course, for moderating. We'll share those recordings with you, and please stay tuned for more STA programming this year. There may be some more to surprise you, but also be on the lookout for 2024 announcements and the new season of STA. So with that, I thank you all and see you again soon. Au revoir. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.